Kyle. I wanted to do a quick live video today. You know, a lot of people watch our videos and they know us as the family that's thriving in chaos. And we share stories and events about how we do that and let you see the happiness in our home. But some of you don't really know our backstory. And I kind of wanted to share that with you guys today to kind of tell you where we came from. You know, when I was growing up, I grew up with three brothers and one sister in an area of Dallas called Oak Cliff, kind of a rougher area. And to say that stress was in our home was an understatement. There was some I'm not going to go into too much detail, but there was a lot of things that went on in our home as I was growing up, from money problems to health problems to so many kids that caused a tremendous amount of stress in our home. And so as I grew up and as I got to become you know, a young adult, I really started thinking about that and kind of watching the damage that was happening because of all the stress in our home. And so when I decided to get married and have my own family, you know, one of the things that I really wanted to have happen was that that we limited that stress and that we created a home where all of our kids wanted to be, where we had a lot of fun and a lot of joy and really experienced those things that I think we all want as families. And, you know, as my wife and I had our first two sons, typical boys, we seemed to be doing a pretty good job of it. I mean, our kids were well adjusted, they were happy. And then our number three son came along. And you can probably tell where this is going, right? At about the age of 3, it seemed like all hell broke loose. I mean, there was these incredible meltdowns. There was things thrown. There was glass broken. There was tremendous screaming. And yeah, I mean, it just really, the stress in our home started to really ramp up and kind of really go through the roof. And I could see all the work we had done really starting to fail. And so it became really concerning to me. And it wasn't until I had him in a pre-kindergarten to kind of have some people look at him that somebody finally said the word autism to me. And at that time, this has been, 15 years ago now, we didn't really know what autism was. I mean, back then, nobody really did, right? When you thought of autism, all you thought was a nonverbal kid sitting in a wheelchair that was stimming. And that was really the only model of autism we kind of had that long ago. And so we took him in and we got him diagnosed. And I can remember the day we got him diagnosed and the doctor came out and said he's on the autism spectrum. He has autism. You know, I remember looking at my wife and she looked at me and I think together we thought, okay, good. Now we know what we're up against. We haven't lost all ability to parent, right? There's something going on that we need to work with. But now that we know what it is, we can help him and we can help our family start to resolve these issues. And so we did everything they told us, from therapists to experts to doctors to ABA to floor time to ABI. I mean, you name it, we did it and we spent money on it. But it really didn't solve the problem. We were living in combat style stress. I mean, I'll never forget the day that we found out a group of our friends went to the park and they didn't invite us. And it made us start to realize that the damage that it was not only doing to our family, but we were losing friends. Or the time that we didn't get a call from our own family who was having a get-together because they knew if our kids came, if our family came, there would be so much disruption that it wouldn't be any fun for anybody. And we started to feel this isolation from the world. And it was hard. We started losing friends and family, and we really couldn't go and do the things that other people could do anymore. And it really felt isolating. And we kind of got on this autism roller coaster. And you know what I'm talking about when I say that, right? Because I'll never forget when my son was about 7 years old, I finally taught him, he's very nonverbal, and I finally taught him to say, I love you to his mom. Well, my wife and I, our heads exploded because we were so excited. And a few days later, he got a hole in his favorite pair of socks, and he tried to attack my wife and I with a fork that he grabbed out of the kitchen. And it seemed like this autism roller coaster was up and down. You know, I'll never forget the time we finally potty trained our oldest of our two on the spectrum. He was 9 years old. And if you can imagine that, having a 9-year-old, a 6-year-old, and newborn twins with diapers, it was incredible for us. We were on the, you know, at the top of the roller coaster. And less than a week later, he smashed his head through a plate glass window in a fit of rage. And I'll never forget, as I was holding him still to get stitches put in his head, those highs, those events that were so good were just gone. And we started to dig this kind of a hole of despair that we couldn't climb back to the surface on. The more bad things that would happen, the deeper this hole of despair got for us. And so, but I'll never forget the day that we had our tipping point as a family. It started on a Saturday morning. We were awakened by a screech, like a crazy scream, at about 6:30 in the morning. And my two sons on the spectrum, I have two sons on the spectrum, had escalated each other somehow, and they were passing it back and forth. And you know, normally a meltdown will last anywhere from 15 to maybe 90 minutes. This one lasted for 4 hours. And it was horrible. I mean, there was smashed glass, things were getting thrown. My two oldest sons, typical boys, were in the room hiding in fear. And my wife and I were doing everything we could imagine, trying to get these boys to ramp back down and get them back to level ground. And I remember when we finally got them back down to a level spot, you know, my wife and I kind of turned on each other. And I think sometimes when you're under a tremendous amount of stress, you want to blame somebody. And my wife and I started taking it out on each other. And she'd say stuff like, well, if you wouldn't have done this, and I would have said, well, if you wouldn't have started that, and she says, well, if you would have said this, and we kind of just really, it became an argument that wasn't stopping. And it was a really bad argument. And I can remember thinking, I've got to get away from this. And I walked out front with my keys in my pocket, and I saw my car, and I considered at that moment leaving and never coming back. Because I just thought, I can't live like this anymore. This is not what I signed up for. And at that moment, a memory of a lesson my dad had taught me popped into my mind. My dad was an expert at linking events in my life to very important lessons. And it happened when I was about 11 or 12, baseball. And we needed one more out, and we would win the game. And somebody hit the ball to me, and I made an error, and the next few guys got on base, and we lost. And after the game, I was just distraught. I mean, I guess as distraught as an 11 or 12-year-old could be. And I walked up to my dad and I said, I wish they hadn't hit me the ball. Then maybe we could have won. And my dad said to me, I'll never forget this. He said, you know what? That's not the way we do things. You don't want to pass the success or failure of your life to someone else. You want to be the reason for your success. You want to be the guy that every ball, every game is hit to. And you work hard to put yourself in that position. We don't give up when things get hard. We dig in and we fight for what we believe in. And I knew that that's what I needed to do, but I didn't know what else to do. I mean, we'd tried everything. We'd spent all our money. We were going broke trying to give these kids therapies and trainings and all these things. And so I did something else my dad had taught me. And I went over under a big pecan tree in the front yard. And I just knelt in prayer. And I just poured my heart out, asking for help. And I'll never forget, you know, during that moment of my life, I felt like, you know, a higher power reached out to me and said, it's you. The problem is not your wife or your kids on the spectrum or your typical kids. It's you. Fix it. And I thought, wow, that's just, you must not know what I'm living with right now. You must not know autism. And then I remembered who I was communicating with. And I thought, well, you know what? Maybe this is good, right? Because I can't control other people. I can't control my kids on the spectrum or my typical kids or my wife, but I can control me. I can control my thoughts, my actions, my reactions. And maybe this is good. Maybe I am the problem. Well, I went back into my wife, and I think she saw me under that tree because her countenance had changed a little bit. And I said to her, this isn't what I signed up for, but I'm willing to fight for our family. And that was the day, really, that things started to change for us. The very next day, we crafted a plan, and we started to create our curriculum. And that's the curriculum we now share with families that join our insiders. I realized, and this is what makes us happiest, is that it's not about fixing our kids on the spectrum. Certainly we want to give them every opportunity to be and fulfill their true potential. But it's really about us as parents. How we manage those situations can increase that stress or lower that stress for our kids and our family on the spectrum. And that's what we learn, and that's what we share in our Insiders group. So that's kind of our story. It's kind of our backstory. This is a little bit longer video, but I wanted to share that with you to help you understand that just because you see us on here thriving and loving life and enjoying the experiences we have doesn't mean we haven't felt exactly what you felt. Because I know that you've been on that autism roller coaster. And I know you've been and experienced those depths of despair that we've experienced. And I want you to know you don't have to do that anymore. And that's what we want for you, for your family. That's what we want for every family who's living with and raising these kids on the autism spectrum. We can do better. We want that for you. So hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully it's kind of giving you an insight into some of what makes us tick as a family. And what makes us tick is seeing you as happy as we are. So if there's anything I can do for you, PM me. Let me know how I can help. If you want to see special videos that are just for you, let me know. I'd be happy to do those kind of things for you. And go out there, manage yourself in a way that allows your family to experience happiness, that lowers stress, and gives your kids on the spectrum every opportunity to fulfill their extreme potential. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.